Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto and Sakura Got Close, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Previously, she made a turn around a corner and walked into a room. It was a shortcut to Tsunade's office because no one was allowed in there, so it would save her time trying to go through everyone in the halls. On her way in, she ran into somebody, and ended up falling over. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. Sakura shook her head as she stood up. I didn't mean to. She became quiet, her heart skipped a beat and she became dizzy. Naruto. Chapter 9/10, Novum. The room was silent. Neither one could utter a word because they were too lost in their thoughts and the moment. Sakura was looking at Naruto. Naruto was looking at Sakura. They studied each other and took in what they hadn't seen in so long. He's changed since, she thought. He seemed to have gotten taller since the last time she was this close to him almost 3 months ago. Seeing him here now was the last thing she would have thought could happen. It didn't feel real, she thought maybe she was dreaming. However, now she didn't really care to distinguish between the two. Whether it was a dream or not, she didn't care. All she knew was that he was here with her now and she wasn't going to lose a chance to talk to him. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her mouth became dry all of a sudden and she couldn't get the words out. She didn't expect that it would be this hard to talk to him. She shouldn't be choking because she said a million words to him before, but there was awkwardness between them that she just wasn't over yet. She tried saying it again. How are you? She said faintly, still in shock. Okay. He said it so quietly it was barely audible. He too was in shock and therefore choked on his reply. It was like a lump, suddenly built up on his throat and he was unable to say anything to her. He takes a long breath of air. Okay. He said it louder this time. Naruto took another breath of air, releasing with it all his nervousness. He wasn't ready for this moment just yet, but he was already in it, so he couldn't leave now. He had dreamt about this very moment for months, every day since the breakup to be more accurate, and now that it was here, he couldn't even say more than one word to her. She too was just as dumbfounded. Here he was standing right in front of her, awaiting her words, but she couldn't say them. She'd gone over her head about 1,000,000 times how this would happen. She would say hello to him and he would say hello back, then she would say all the things she longed to tell him that she never did before. They just stood there without saying anything to each other. She felt like he was getting too uncomfortable and just wanted to get out of there, but she didn't want that. She had to do something to make him stay longer, just a little bit longer so she could talk to him. Then she noticed the bandage around his waist. What happened? She asked him, trying not to sound too concerned because she might scare him away, but enough to let him know she's worried. Naruto looks at his wound. Oh, this. He didn't know how to explain it without saying anything he might regret. He couldn't say, yeah, I got this because I took your necklace and never gave it back to you, and when I was fighting Sasuke, it fell and I just had to save it, you know. I made a careless mistake while I was out training with Sasuke. That was all he said to her. Sakura wanted to reprimand him for his carelessness, but then she remembered she no longer had that right. You look nice, he finally said after looking at her for what seemed like an eternity. Her heartbeat started to slow down to normal again. They were getting used to each other's company. She smiles. And just like that they were the same again. There was no longer that thorny, uneasy feeling that they were just experiencing, and suddenly, they no longer felt ill at ease. He complimented her and she happily accepted it without all the weirdness that would usually accompany it. Thanks, but I'm not so sure I look presentable in these clothes. Sakura said jokingly as she smiled. You don't look that bad. Naruto said just as amusingly, with one side of his smile curved just a little bit higher, making him look like a child. That bad? Oh, okay. No. Naruto tried saving himself from what he just said to her. I mean, you look really nice. She took his compliment, smiling shyly as she did so. It was nice for them to just be there and talking again. They longed for it, dreamt about it, and more than anything, they needed it. They needed it for their own sanity and mental health, actually. It was sweet for them to be able to talk to each other again like they used to, with nothing hanging over their heads. Just for a brief moment, they could forget about everything else and be with each other, that's all they wanted. Then Sakura took a chance, saying something that they were better off not knowing. I miss you. The atmosphere in the room changed from familiar ease to a feeling of regret for the two. She needed to say that to him and he needed to hear that from her. I'm not asking much from you, Naruto, but just hear me out. She see him off before he could say anything else. He was actually glad she did, because he didn't know how to reply to her last statement. I don't know. I don't know. She started to feel a little dizzy and her weight became almost unbearable. Why things happen like they do sometimes? She was shaking her head, trying to stay awake, but they happen for a. She was starting to get a headache and her heart was beating faster and faster. A reason. She was breathing heavily and she was starting to sweat. Reason. Sakura-chan. Naruto took a step forward, figuring out that something was happening to her. I'm fine, just a little tired I guess. Sakura tried reassuring him, well more like herself really. Naruto knew though, he understood exactly why she started feeling that way. He had to get out of there before it got worse. Look, I better leave. I have to do something. Naruto started to back away to the door. Sakura tried stopping him, but she was too tired to and also because she knew she couldn't stop him. He took one last look at her and soon he was gone. Sakura stayed in there for just a minute longer. When she was done looking at nothing, she too left the room. Inside a dark, underground room, a man was walking back and forth. He seemed to be debating on something as he walked around, his feet splashing the water drops on the cold ground. That useless boy, he has failed again. He thought out loud. His walking became harsher, becoming more like stomps than anything else. Doesn't he know I'm almost out of time? He yelled out loud. Orochimaru paced back and forth. Stupid idiot can't even do one thing right in his life. He vented out all his anger in the empty room. Gahhh. He picked up a chair that was sitting beside him and threw it at the wall. The poor wooden object shattered into many pieces. He continued his pace. To think, after all I have done for him, he thanks me this way. Orochimaru couldn't take the thought of ungrateful people, it made him mad to the bone, irking him so much that the only way he could calm down was by killing someone. No worries, he assured himself. He looked around for anything to sit on considering he had just demolished the one chair in the room. He finally settled on the table. I will figure out a way, somehow. The birds were chirping on another sunny, bright morning in Konoha. The sun rose as usual bringing with it its warming rays and blinding light. The rooster released his morning call and soon, the village was up and about. In a corner section of the village, in an apartment on the second floor, what sounded like a wailing pig, in a certain pink-haired girl's ear, could be heard. It was too early in the morning to be listening to these kinds of sounds, especially for a certain Haruno Sakura. I mean, seriously, you does that? Ino continued her inexorable words. Sakura tried drowning her out, but knew that never really works out too well in these situations. I try to help him and he's like, I don't need help, you know. Ino didn't seem to notice that she might as well be talking to herself because Sakura wasn't listening. The pink-haired girl was trying her best to pour coffee in her mug. She was careful to tune out Ino, particularly when she starts screaming in that high-pitched voice of hers sometimes, so that she doesn't spill the hot liquid on her delicate skin. Sakura, are you listening? Ino inquired from her friend. Aha. Ino didn't sense the lie in her voice, so she kept on ranting. Okay, so I told him, Shikamaru, I've had it with you, if you want to grow up and talk to me, then I'll be waiting, until then, just forget I ever knew you, and I stormed out. Ino recalled that little event last night with him. Supposedly, they had been in an argument and Ino had had it with him and told him off. Although, we were in the middle of the road, so I couldn't have stormed out, so I guess I just angrily walked away. Sakura had finally gotten her morning beverage and settled down on a comfy sofa. So, let me get this straight. Sakura took a quick sip of the deliciously soothing coffee. You tried talking to him, again, 2 days ago, and he was a little drunk. Ino nodded her head. You told him that he shouldn't do those things and he got mad, and then you got mad. Am I getting this? Sakura asked. Ino nodded again. And now you told him never to speak to you again until he grows up. Yeah, basically. Sakura took another sip of her coffee. And now you're regretting saying it because you think he might not and you guys will never talk again. Ino nodded in reply. What do? I can't take it back because then he wins, but I don't want it to last because I miss talking to him. Sakura took a moment to think about her next reply. Well, I think the best way to fix this. Ino listened closely. Is by telling him the truth already. Sakura said at last. What? Ino didn't understand exactly what she meant. Come on Ino, you know what I'm talking about. Sakura tried to remind her. It was the reason why you broke up with Sai in the first place. Ino opened her mouth to speak. And don't even try telling me it was because he wasn't ready for a commitment because I will kick you out. Sakura said to her. Ino gave up. Sakura knew her too well for her to try and deny it. Fine, you win, I guess. Ino wasn't ready to accept it just yet, but the feeling was getting stronger and stronger. She didn't like thinking about it right now, so she started a new conversation. So, what did you do yesterday? Sakura suddenly became nervous. She took a deep breath before speaking. Well, I went to work, ate food, and talked to Naruto. She tried saying the last part as fast as possible so that Ino couldn't hear it. What? Oh my god, what happened? But Ino heard her. Nothing much really. Ino gave her a look basically saying, I don't believe you. I ran into him trying to take a shortcut and we talked. What did you talk about? Come on, there has to be more than that. Ino wasn't satisfied with her answer. Sakura recalled their conversation. Well, it was awkward at first, we haven't been that close for so long. Sakura started smiling, and then, he talked too. It felt like old times and it was nice. But he left shortly afterwards. Sakura said in a way that gave Ino the hint that that conversation was over. Sakura didn't want to talk about it anymore. She was afraid that the more she said it, the more it became just another simple memory to her. The two girls sat there in her living room, not saying any more. Oh crap, I promised Tsunade that I would be in the hospital today. Sakura scrambled to get up and get her things. Turn the lights off for me when you leave, Ino. Bye. Sakura ran out of the room, leaving Ino behind. Fine, just leave me here. All alone. Goddammit. Naruto exclaimed out loud. He was trying to change into his clothes, but the wound on his side was still hurting too much for him to do so. Naruto examined his side. Hey Fox, couldn't you just heal this already? I did, it's just that the wound is so deep that I can't heal it all, or ease the pain. The QB replied to him. Naruto gave up. He walked over to his room to rest some more. I miss you. How those three little words made him so happy. He wasn't expecting to see her there. Well, it was as in the only one, hospital of Konoha, so he should have anticipated the moment, but he didn't. So when she unexpectedly ran into him, he didn't know what to do. The moment he saw her, he froze on the spot. He couldn't believe what he said to her. He feared he was too bold, but then she seemed to not mind. When she smiled, it was the greatest feeling he ever felt in so long. He was so happy hearing her gentle laugh again. He missed that. Just being able to be with her and making her laugh and escape the world. It was his duty and his alone. It was his given job to make her smile and laugh. Although he had failed a number of times. Sakura-chan. It was only around 4 o'clock, but the sky was starting to get dark. The clouds were quickly turning into a darker, purple color as it moves along, complaining loudly as it does so. Never had Konoha seen the sky so angry, so omnipotent to everything else. It was disgruntled, grumbling and moaning its cry upon the village. Disheveled by the mighty purple veil of the sky, the villagers were scurrying every way, tumbling and falling over each other. Hurry home, was their battle cry. Each and every person took their stance, some helped the fallen and others helped the hastened. The rest went to their sanctuaries, ready to wait it out. The sky groaned and growled, roaring and bellowing its cries. Soon vicious bullets fell from the sky, descending to the earth. They were relentless, violently hammering the earth and its inhabitants with ferocious speed. They were thick, full, and ardent in what they did. The attacks dragged along, spreading its destruction everywhere. No one was safe, no could escape it. Never had Konoha seen such magnificent power. This storm is going to ruin my clothes. An old man with striking white hair exclaimed. Since when did you care? An old woman with modest blonde hair howled back. Jiraiya looked at her with displeased eyes, but he abated his anger by remembering who she was. Anyway, why did you call me here again? Tsunade took some time to answer him back. Remember when you came to me with news about 4 months ago? The Sannin retreated to his memory, trying to recall the labeled time. Ah, of course. 4 months ago, yes, I remember. 4 months ago. So, how did it go? It wasn't bad, he cooperated most of the time. Did you learn anything? Nothing of much importance. Ibiki simply said. Tsunade thought for a moment. Good, good. Tsunade stood up and walked over to the window. Tell me, though. Ibiki turned his head so that he was facing her. You didn't have any intentions of hurting him, right? Of course not. Ibiki was surprised that Tsunade would even think such a thing. All right, that is all. You did your job well. Ibiki stood up and bowed his head in respect before he left the room. Tsunade was left in the room. She was thinking about something that seemed important. So, how did it go? A man's voice said from out of nowhere. I'm going to need more sake. Tsunade turned around to see Jiraiya. Well, it is not enough for anything, but he took the bait. I knew it. Jiraiya walked over to a nearby chair to sit down. Tsunade followed his lead and sat down as well. Ibiki, before the interrogation, was notified clearly and with great care to get everything he could about Sasuke. He was told to use brute force if necessary. Tsunade stopped to see if Jiraiya was still listening. Go on. He motioned to her with his head. As part of a test that we conducted, and on the advice of the elders, we placed in the room a glass cup. And I presume this is where you try to get him. He already seeing where this was going. Correct. It worked like a charm. Tsunade said, not particularly fond that it did. See, before it all, Ibiki was given strict orders to report back to me a reply to a certain question. When I asked him what he learned, he was supposed to say nothing, but instead he did. Tsunade went on. And when I asked him about using violence and he replied no was just a bonus. Jiraiya finished her sentence. He understood now what had happened. But you still don't have enough on him. We have proof that Uchiha Sasuke used some sort of drug that skews one's memories, but it's not substantial enough. Tsunade didn't need to answer that. Did you learn anything? Yes, actually. Jiraiya had been ordered to look for information regarding the Uchiha and anyone he came in contact with. He gained a little knowledge that may be important. Yes, Itachi is S. No, Orochimaru is still alive somewhere. And as far as I could get, no one knows what the Uchiha wants. I see. Tsunade couldn't understand his motive. Why was he here now after all he had been through, and why did Orochimaru vanish all of a sudden soon after Sasuke came back? Tsunade, Jiraiya snapped her back to the real world, you should keep an eye on him. Agreed. So, what about it? He asked. Tsunade's sweat dropped. Could he be that dense sometimes? What do you think? She yelled. I don't think. She gave up. Sometimes it was just impossible talking to him. We've got something. Jiraiya stopped his goofing around to hone in on the situation. We've been watching him for some time, but not until recently did we actually get him. What happened? Tsunade didn't know how to explain it. She had authorized for Anbu to check up on Sasuke every now and then. They got a few things before, but not until recently did they really get him. We've been watching him for some time now. She began from the beginning since she couldn't think of another way of telling him. At first, he didn't do anything suspicious, but we caught him one night lurking around Naruto's apartment building. And later that very same night, one Anbu caught him spying on a room in the building. We guessed it was Naruto's, but he didn't do anything. Jiraiya didn't say a word but instead let Tsunade continue with her story. After that, we didn't see much of him. It was not until a couple of days ago that he slipped. Jiraiya was attentively listening. He came home one day and, Tsunade took a pause. Anbu reported sightings of another man in his room, silver-haired, wearing glasses. Kabuto. Jiraiya figured it out. Although he was sure why Kabuto would be at Sasuke's house of all places, he had a clue, but he sure wished he was wrong. Tsunade, do you realize that? I know. Tsunade interrupted him. We know nothing much, but I fear they want Naruto. Tsunade took some time just sitting there, contemplating on what to do. She had given orders to take in the Uchiha for further investigations, but if they were wrong about him, she just couldn't think straight right now. Tsunade moved her head to look up, when she suddenly felt someone's chakra spike it. It wasn't hers, nor Jiraiya's because she would have felt it a long time ago. It was a familiar chakra, that she knew well. Sakura. Tsunade asked whoever was standing behind the door. Just when she said that, Sakura walked in the room with her expression lost and confused. What? Her voice sounded confused. Tsunade stood up, fearing that Sakura may have heard something she was better off not knowing. How long have you been standing there? She demanded, her voice was commanding, trying to scare her away from that place. I heard everything. Sakura had been walking to her office when she heard them talking. She was about to walk away, but then she heard Naruto's name, and so she stayed. She lowered her chakra level so no one could sense her. The Hokage herself taught her that, as she listened. The more she heard about it, the more she couldn't believe it. She thought of many things, but most importantly, she just wanted to go to Naruto to sort this out. Why were you talking about Naruto? Tsunade thought about just dismissing her and telling her to forget about what she heard, but she knew Sakura and she wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. So she told her, not adding details that she didn't need to know, unless she asked specifically for it. She told her about the Anbu missions to spy on Sasuke, how they learned that there was more to him than what he says, and the idea that they, whoever they are planning something that involves Naruto. Naruto. She couldn't handle all the information that she just heard, but she asked for it so she had to. She couldn't believe Sasuke would do such a thing, after all that they have been through. Why would he want to help out Kabuto and why Naruto? Naruto. I have to go to him. She thought. Maybe there's something more that they don't know that he does. Sakura ran out of the room and to his house. Sakura. Tsunade tried to call her back. Let it go, Tsunade. She probably just needs time to sort things out for herself. Jiraiya tried to offer her. Tsunade was tempted to run after her, but she knew Jiraiya was right and she couldn't do anything more. Sakura. This rain sure is vicious. Naruto thought as he looked outside his window. He couldn't sleep so he just gave up, deciding that he would just stay up and wait the night out. He yawned as he stood up to walk to his kitchen to make himself some nice, hot cocoa. On his way, he heard someone knocking at his door. He glanced at his clock to see that it was almost 11. I wonder who it is. Naruto walked to his door and opened it. Usually no one ever visits him, especially around his time of day and in this weather no less. Hey, it's kind of Sakura. There in front of him, was a soaking wet Sakura. What are you doing? You can catch a cold. I have to talk to you, may I come in? Sakura asked him urgently. Sure, come in. Naruto moved aside so that she could come in. She was dripping some water on the floor because she was so wet. He noticed that she was shaking, which must have been from the rain and the cold. You can sit anywhere you want, he told her, and wait here, I'll get you some towels to dry yourself with. Sakura wanted to sit down, but she also didn't want to get any of his stuff wet, so she just stood there waiting for him. She was freezing in her clothes, but she couldn't take him off in here. Here. She turned around to see him. He gave her a towel to dry her body with and another to use as a blanket. After some time of drying herself, she became comfortable and sat down. Naruto waited for her to talk since he didn't know what to do. Is there something you're not telling me? She jumped right to the point. She was tired of waiting and pointless small talk that never really helped anyway. She wanted to get to the point right there. And save me the small talk, Naruto. Naruto didn't know how to answer her. I don't know what you mean. Sakura was becoming impatient, so she decided to help with his memory. Sasuke, Kabuto, ring any bells. Kabuto. He hated hearing that name. He despised the man and wanted nothing more than a chance to kill him himself. He was confused as to why she was talking about Sasuke, though. I don't know what you're talking about. God damn it. Sakura couldn't hold it anymore. She knew that he knew something, there was this feeling deep within her saying so, and her gut instincts had never failed her yet. Sakura-chan, I really. Stop it. Sakura stood up, stop playing dumb. We both know you know something. So just tell, because I won't leave until I know it. Sakura was looking him in the eyes, adamant on getting whatever it is she wanted. He knew what she meant, but he didn't know if he should tell her. Should he tell her? She already knew that something was up and so this couldn't really harm her. About 3 months ago, he began, when I got home, I found someone in my house. Sakura listened to his story. He told her about his encounter with Kabuto, about a deal he was forced to make, and all that. Naruto was vague with details, leaving out vital information here and there. But Sakura wasn't stupid. Being the most intelligent ninja in her class, she was smart enough to put the pieces together. He said very little for her to know much, but she put parts by parts and she ended up with something. This deal you made, what was it? Naruto didn't know how to answer that without telling her everything. And so he said nothing, but instead he lifted his head and faced her. He looked at her. Eye to eye, they connected. He was telling her what he was too weak to say in words. With his look, he told her everything she ever needed to know. It was the only way he could do so, he was too afraid to say it out loud because of an unknown fear in him. So he directed all his feelings to that one look, which said so many things to her. You. For you. Only you. I did it because I wanted to help you. I did even when it tore me apart. Even if I had to break your heart. It has always been you. She heard it all. Everything he said. All his reasons why. His eyes told her everything. Why? She was crying now. Why did you do that? She couldn't understand why Naruto has to save everyone all the time, even if it caused him pain too. She couldn't understand why people would put themselves through pain. Sakura-chan. That's all he said. Naruto, why? I never asked for you to protect me. She felt something on her chest trying to break out. She knows he only did it for her, but she couldn't control the feeling of anger and frustration that is building up in her right now. It is not for you to decide. He said simply, not at all affected by her words. Sakura was irked by his words. I have a choice. I should be able to decide for my own. Sometimes, there are choices you just can't make yourself. Sakura couldn't say anything. He was right, it wasn't hers. She knew he only did what he thought was best, but it still angered her. Why didn't you just? Sakura-chan, he interrupted her. Do you realize how hard it was for me to do that? Sakura listened to him, having no choice. To have had you at last, only to let you go. Naruto looked her in the eyes. He wanted her to hear him say these words to her. This indescribable feeling on his chest was tearing him and he just had to let it out. It was crawling on, choking and suffocating him. When you love someone, Sakura was in the same pain. She was finally understanding him. All those years she thought she knew him is now just a mere memory as she is finally seeing the real him. The Naruto that everyone accepted and appreciated. She finally understood why. You do everything you can to make that person happy, whether they agree or not. The feeling in his chest became unbearable, and then Naruto felt warm tears slipping down his face. All his loneliness, his isolation, and his guilt poured down with it. It was amazing to him how quickly he came to tears. He didn't even try to fight it off, he accepted it, embraced it with much sincerity. And then their happiness becomes yours. Sakura. Sakura listened to him cry out, calling to her. She felt his pain, the burden he lived with. I only did it because I love you. She couldn't believe what she just learned. It saddened her, pained her, and made her happy. All this time she had never felt his words more genuine, more tangible than now. She walked to him. Naruto stiffened a little. The sight of Sakura approaching made him nervous, and the fact that her eyes were red from tears and her face so tired from crying only added to the effect. He didn't stop her, but only stood there. I'm sorry. Her eyes were full of guilt as she looked him in the eyes. He said to her that he would not stop her and only let her lead him. There was a knock at the door. Shikamaru. Ino knocks on the door again. Hey, you in there? There was no reply. She was about to walk away when the door opened. Hey, sorry, come in. Shikamaru looked like he just woke up. Ino walked into house as Shikamaru closed the door behind her. Can I get you something? He offered her, trying to be polite. It was really early in the morning, maybe too early for her to be visiting, but Ino had to see him now. She had been thinking about what Sakura had told her to do all night. And now she wanted nothing more than to resolve all of this. No, I'm fine. But then again she was still scared of being too bold and of mankind's biggest fear, rejection. Listen, about what I said to you. Shikamaru see her off, don't worry about it. We were just annoyed and said things we didn't mean. Ino looked down, ashamed to remember the things she had said to him. I'm still sorry. It's okay, he assured her. If anything, I should be sorry. I acted like a complete jerk. Me too. Okay, so we were both jerks that night. He said it as a joke, trying to light up the situation. The two shared a nice laugh. Realizing that they had been standing by the door the entire time, Shikamaru invited Ino into his living room. So, did you need something? Ino took a deep breath. Okay, she had practiced this last night, all she needed to do was just say it. We need to talk. I thought that that's what we're already doing. Ino gave him a look, but she smiled. Well, I got a smile. Better than nothing. Ino couldn't help but love that about him. He always knew what to say to make her feel better. And that's why she had come today at his house, to tell him that herself. Shikamaru, Ino began but lost her words. Yes. For all the years I've known you. She looked at him, he was looking at her, never breaking eye contact. I never once, she was silenced. Shikamaru backed away. Wah, Ino was speechless, she was taken by surprise. Ino, I can't hold it anymore, I love you. Shikamaru finally admitted to her, he couldn't hide it any longer. Shikamaru. Thud. The door flies open, its sides shattering into many small pieces. 4 men wearing arrays of animal masks marches in. Having been startled by the door, Sasuke jumped off his bed and entered his living room. When he arrived there, he saw 3 Anbu standing by the threshold and another one heading his way. What the F are you doing? He asked, very much irked by their rude trespassing. Uchiha Sasuke, the Anbu that walked towards him unscrolled a scroll and started reading from it. By the authority of the village council and the Hokage, you are hereby under arrest for treason. What? The man rolled up his scroll. The Anbu then turned around and gave the orders to his subordinates. Sasuke didn't have enough time to think about what was happening or do anything about it. The 2 other Anbu bound his hands behind his back, making sure it was tight enough so he couldn't do anything. They soon dragged him out of the Uchiha compound and back to the Hokage tower. Sasuke struggled and protested as he was tugged along, but the Anbu Black Ops paid no attention to him. Small droplets of water slowly tumbled from the rooftops, landing gently on the wet ground. Some of it attached themselves to the grass and others turned into mist hovering over the earth. The air was cool and soothing. Quietly, the birds hummed tranquility to the calm village. The people were still inside, hushed by the delicate, peaceful hands of nature. Naruto could make out soft avian murmurs as he lazily lied in bed, numbed under sweet serenity. He slowly picks up someone's low whispers. Her alluring voice slowly woke him up. Naruto, wake up. He blinks once, twice, so his vision would clear up. He opens his eyes to see his lovely flower hovering above him. Hey there, the young girl said ever so softly. Hey, he said in the same manner. Sakura shifted her position so that she was now lying next to him, placing her head on the crook of his neck and her hand on his bare chest. Briskly, the wind breezed in, feeling cold and sharp against their form. Naruto pulls on the bed covering so that they were once again under its protecting shield. For a minute, they just stayed there, too lazy to get up. She made no signs of protest, but instead did the same. They were drifting into sleep again. Sasuke was thrown into a room and forced to sit down on the only chair. You can't just do this to me. Sasuke yelled at the guard. Shut up. The guard tightened the rope around his wrist, just to hear him wince in pain. Sasuke groaned in pain. Now, just sit your ass down until the Hokage comes in. Sasuke wanted so much to just punch the guy, but he was literally tied up at the moment. He tried easing his hands through the rope, but it didn't work. He couldn't do any jutsus because he couldn't even move his hands. He was bound to the chair. It's a special rope, so he can't do jutsus. Is it possible that they know? He asked himself. Why did they arrest him, brusquely knocking down the door, and taking him in? Was it possible that they have found him out? He felt the fear crawling up his stomach to his throat and on his back. What is Orochimaru going to think of this? If he doesn't find a way out of this, he just might find himself in a dilemma that he would rather not be a part of. He wondered if they had found him out, finally saw through his deceit. He knew if he was found out that it would be the end of him. He had to get out of there, he had to get out of there now. He looks around, but the room was blocked from everything, no windows, no vents, just a door and a very pissed off guard. He was tied to the chair so he couldn't just run for it. But then again he saw all those guards they had outside, just waiting for him to make one wrong move. All those guards waiting for him to make a run for it. No, he couldn't run now. He would wait for the perfect moment to make his move and disappear forever. Hungry? Sakura asked as she sat on the comfortable mattress. They had just gotten off bed, after about an hour or 2, or 3, of just helplessly lying there and doing a lot of catching up. Ramen? Naruto asked her like a child asking for ice cream. She chuckles. Ramen it is. It was almost 3 afternoon and so they really needed eat after all that. They took a moment to just look at each other. It was nice to finally be able to do this again. Just the two of them, talking and laughing. He couldn't stop looking at her, after all those months without her, he just couldn't get enough of her. Naruto walked over to the bed where she was currently sitting. Sakura could only watch him. He sat down beside her and just looked at her beautiful emerald eyes that he loved so much and he touched her body that had lusted for. Sakura smiled at him. I love you, he said before he kissed her. He felt a jolt of electricity run through him the moment he touched her soft, pink lips. It made his hair rise and excited him. Her lips were so soft and the sensation he got was thrilling. He wanted more. Shizune couldn't help but wonder if there was something wrong with her. She knew that face Tsunade made sometimes, usually when something is wrong. Is everything okay? She asked to her. She thought about that question long and hard. Is everything okay? Remember when times used to be simpler? The Hokage asked her assistant. Hokage-sama. I remember then. Tsunade completely ignored her, but continued with her point instead. I never had to worry about everything. Then, it was me, the world, and all its treasures. I could be somewhere out there right now, somewhere away from it all. Talking up with old friends about the days long gone, reminiscing or forgetting about the past I've left behind, hell and even playing a little bit of cards. Tsunade could still clearly remember her old days. She saw it as vividly as if it was happening now. She could feel the touch of the cards against her hands, see the faces of people she can't remember the names of. She could even taste her precious sake just by thinking about it. Those were the days, she continued, no worries, just getting by. I remember one time my biggest problem was how to get money so I could get more sake. She chuckled a little upon remembering, but now, that's all gone. Now, everyone and everything depends on me, on what I do. If I make one wrong move, someone is thrown into prison, banished for all eternity, and sometimes someone even s. Well, we can't always control what we do. She offers as a consolation. Do we ever have control of it? Tsunade asked her. The younger woman was a bit surprised by her words. Since when did Tsunade think like this, cracking under the pressure that she had long since been carrying? If the villagers were to find out the Hokage herself is beginning to doubt their own self-existence, all hell was sure to break loose. Chaos descending from unknown dimensions, demons crawling out from Earth itself, and the Shizune stopped her thoughts before they got out of hand. We all just think we have control of it when indeed some higher power controls us all. Shizune was again surprised to hear her talk like this, like everything was lost and there was no hope, but only doom and destruction. Nothing is okay anymore, Shizune. Tsunade looked outside to the gloomy, ominous village. I just can't shake this feeling that something terrible is about to happen. Tsunade took in a deep breath. So, do they have him? Tsunade changed the conversation. Why yes, they have taken him and placed him under security. Shizune told her, and now they are just waiting for your order. Order. She hated that word. Every time she made one, something bad seemed to happen, and the way she was feeling now didn't help ease that. Tell him to go ahead and start, I'll just be there. Shizune bowed her head in respect before leaving. Soon, the Anbu would start interrogating, maybe even Sasuke. She had given that order and now they would follow it. What if he is innocent after all? She would ask herself. Then again, everything up to this point suggested he was anything but that. Though she wished that her greatest fears were not to be confirmed. If Sasuke was in fact tainted with that snake bastard's influence, she feared that she would be too late to foil whatever their plan was. Sasuke sat alone in the middle of an empty room. I need to get out of here, he said to himself. The more he stayed there, the more he knew he was going to get caught. And that was the last thing he wanted to happen. If he was caught now, he knew Orochimaru would do everything to finish up this mess of theirs. Meaning that he would eliminate all that had come into contact with him, all the plans they had conspired would abruptly end. Orochimaru would kill him, if the Anbu agents didn't do it first. Then he would go after Sakura, maybe just for the thrill of it, and he would kill her too. Sakura would be easiest for him to do considering he had the L and could easily activate it, or so he was led to believe. And then finally, he would go after Naruto. He would get his body, that he was sure of, and use it for the worst, the destruction of Konoha with the fox's help. He needed to get out of there. But how was he going to do that? No windows to just jump out of, no ventilation to crawl in, nothing. Nothing, except the door. Tsunade was currently sitting down in her office. This day was going by too slowly. She didn't like that she couldn't do anything else for the rest of the day. She would have gone to see what they were doing to the Uchiha, but the council strictly gave her orders to let Anbu handle it. Those senile old jerks. She hated them so much sometimes, always telling her to do this and that she can't do this or that. She didn't even know why they wanted to piss her off so much. Deciding that standing there and being bitter about it wouldn't help her at all, Tsunade decided that it was better if she just went for a quick walk around the hospital. Naruto stepped out of the shower, grabbing the towel as he did. He wrapped it around himself and walked over to the mirror to check himself. His eyes looked tired and his hair was still wet from the shower he had just taken. He looked at his face, examining himself. Why does this feel so familiar? He asked himself. Naruto noticed that the wound had finally healed, but it left him one nasty scar. Hey Fox, did you do this? Naruto returned to the dark realm of his mind. Yeah, I thought you said you couldn't do it anymore, Naruto said as he put on his pajama pants. I did, the Kyuubi began, but after the jolt of energy you got last night while you were rekindling your romance, your chakra level shot up and so I decided to help you out, otherwise, you would have been wailing in pain the entire night. Naruto ran a finger along it. He was amazed as to how fast the Kyuubi could. Wait, Naruto's heart started to speed up, the hair on his arm and neck stood erect as a wave of fear washed over him. Chakra. Ah! A woman's scream rang out followed by sounds of metals clashing. Naruto jumped at the sound of the Sakura-chan. Naruto dashed out of the bathroom and surged through the hallway. Kami, what have I done? How could he forget? Of all the things he could have done wrong, why did he make this mistake? How could he have forgotten that the very reason he broke up with her in the first place was because of what was happening now? Naruto ran quicker, hoping to all the gods and everyone that he would not be too late. When he got there, he found Sakura lying flat on the floor. He felt like his heart was about to jump out of his chest. Sakura-chan. He fell down by her side, trying to shake her awake. Nothing. His breathing was getting heavier and heavier. Sakura-chan. He screamed it so loud it would have awakened the S. Nothing. Without even thinking, he picked her up and rushed out the window. He jumped from rooftop to rooftop as fast as he could. Please hold on. He didn't even care that he was only wearing pants and that the air pierced him like a knife. He had to get Sakura to the hospital. I need a doctor, he screamed as soon as he got in. The receptionist was about to scold him for yelling, but she noticed that he was carrying someone with him. She immediately picked up the phone and started calling for help. Sakura started to shake uncontrollably. Her body temperature was starting to drop. Naruto couldn't stand just waiting there, so he started to head to the hospital rooms. He was scurrying through the halls, passing through many other patients as he searched for an empty room. He held on tight to her, even though her shaking made it hard for him. He finally found an empty one on the end of the hall. His heart was trying to jump out of his chest. All he could think about getting Sakura in there. He placed her onto the bed. Naruto was shaking just as much as Sakura was. He didn't know what to do. He knew he had to go far away, but he couldn't just leave her there without anyone. Just then, a doctor walked in, followed by a number of nurses. Soon, she was crowded with medical employees. We're going to need you to step outside, sir, one nurse said to him. Naruto protested, saying that he needed to know if she was going to be all right. We need you to step outside, sir. She repeated. Naruto fought no more, he wasn't going to win this. Naruto walked out of the room, his heart was pounding through his chest. He wanted to see what they were doing in there, but he remembered he was doing this to her. And so he ran far away, but close enough for him to still be able to see. Please be all right. Clear. Thump. He could hear them trying to bring her back. Clear. Thump. He could hear them yelling out. Her heart is slowing down. She's not responding. Get Tsunade in here. 40 BPM. Give her some. We can't. Forget it. We have no choice. Clear. Doctor. Where is that? 30 BPM. This is not good. Give. Defibrillator. 15 BPM. CL. R. Thump. 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 C. Thump. Thump. R. Everything around him became quiet as his heart drowned out everything else. Thump. Thump. He was scared for the worst, he was scared that she would, Thump. Thump. The last thing he saw was Tsunade running in the room before everything turned black. Comma dot. Quote. Wake, sir, sleep. Naruto could hear faint sounds of someone's voice. W. Key. You. Ed. Your. Where was he? You need to, sir. You. Sleeping. His body felt heavy and cold. He was freezing in there. Sir, you need to wake up, you've been sleeping. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. At first he couldn't make out anything, but after some time, his sight came back. He saw a nurse standing right in front of him, apparently waking him up for sleeping there. You really shouldn't be sleeping there. It's almost 8 o'clock, sir, we have a waiting room, you know, you could sleep in there. It was then that he remembered where he was. He had gone to the hospital and had fallen asleep in the hallway. He wiped the sleep off his eyes. His face felt cold, almost wet. Had he been crying? How is she? He asked the young women. You need to go to the waiting room, sir. How is she? He asked again, only this time with a little demand behind it. The nurse said nothing, she only looked away from him. Naruto's heart stopped beating. Is she? Is SSSHE? No, she's not. Naruto turns his head to the left to see Tsunade walking his way. His heart eased a little, but only a little. Naruto, I need to speak to you in private. She motioned him to follow her to another room where they could converse. Close the door behind you, she said as she walked in the room. He does what he was told. Tsunade, Naruto was about to ask her more question about Sakura, but then she see him off. Naruto, I'm not going to lie to you. He became quiet and grave. He knew where this was going. Sakura is okay, for now. Tsunade stopped her sentence as she tried looking for the best words for her to say now. Naruto, I don't know how to say this. She's dying. Her words struck him hard, struck him fast. He didn't know how to respond to that, he didn't know, he couldn't, This couldn't be happening. Tsunade felt the same way. It was hard for her to say those words, as if by doing so she admitted and accepted that it was true, that there was no way to cure it, to stop it from happening. But it was. Even if they couldn't handle it, the truth was there and it was going to happen. Ho. Naruto couldn't even say the words. He was overwhelmed with emotions, grief, anger, frustration, regret, and guilt. It was his fault, his choice that she was now clinging on to the very small amount of life left in her. Her organs are deteriorating, slowly, one by one each is shutting down. Hearing her say those words were like bullets piercing through his skin, slowly and painfully. It would seem that she has something within her that's causing this. There was really no other way to say this, and so Tsunade just said it. At first it will attack her nervous system, key off all her sensory neurons so that she couldn't react to anything. It has manifested itself into something that could adapt to her environment and function as anything throughout her body. It could attack her brain, shut down her motor, olfactory, her sight, everything that is controlled by her brain. Then it will travel back down, weakening her bones so that she can no longer stand, then her muscles so she can't move, and then it will kill everything else. After that, it will come back up to her heart, through her veins and into her ventricles where it will disrupt the function of the heart, bombarding him with guilt and anger. Each sound she made only makes it worse. Not only will Sakura but all because of him. He wanted to punch himself, apologize to her and tell her that he was a fool. The pain was too much for him to take, too real for him to bear. It slowly ate him up inside, at first making him completely infuriated with himself, then more, it wanted him to vent out his anger on anything or anyone, and then finally it shriveled him up inside, provoking him to weep rivers of tears. The guilt inside his hollow heart made him suffocate. He could have stopped all this, he could have prevented it all. The warm tears flowed down his face, streaming fast and endlessly. It didn't stop, he couldn't do anything to make it stop anymore. He thought he had cried his last, but Naruto, we can still save her. His head shot up. Hope. There was hope still. They could still save her. Tsunade saw the sudden color appear in his face and she finally saw his teary red eyes. She felt so much pity for him right now, but she also felt his pain. This was Sakura after all. They both shared a love for this girl, however different love. She was her daughter and she couldn't imagine losing her just as much as Naruto could. And so she understood why he was this way and knew that he didn't have to say a word for her to go on. This thing in her, it can still be reversed. Then Naruto decided to tell in, he had to tell her now before it was too late. Tsunade, I have something I need to tell you, something about Sakura. Thud. Sasuke's head rose. He heard someone's body crashing against the floor. He tried listening harder, but it became silent outside again. Maybe the guard just passed out. He thought so at least. The door sprang open. Suddenly, energy came back to his body as the person standing in front of him was the one person he really needed right now. Took you long enough. And that's how it all happened. Naruto finished telling her everything. Tsunade didn't know how to react to it. Kabuto had been in his room and had forced him to break up with Sakura. There is AL running through her veins. Why didn't you tell me of this earlier? Tsunade asked him, wondering why he had kept it all to himself this entire time. Because I was scared. Naruto finally admitted it, I didn't know the full extent of what he could and will do and I got scared. I could only think of her at that moment and now I realized that I made mistake. All this time, I could have stopped it all, but Tsunade couldn't believe all that she had heard. If it was all true then Sasuke was indeed a traitor, it was all the proof they needed to bring him down. Then she remembered Naruto still didn't know about it. Naruto, there is something you must know about Sasuke. Sasuke, what? Naruto couldn't understand how this could relate to what they were talking about. How did Sasuke fit into all this? You see, he has been lying to you the entire time. What? He never wanted to come back here, he came back for the purpose of trying to help Orochimaru, and after hearing what you just told me, it only makes it clearer. And I fear that Kabuto is really Orochimaru now. Sasuke, helping Orochimaru, for what? Wait, Kabuto is Orochimaru. It really didn't take that much to realize at this point what they wanted. Naruto just couldn't believe that his friend, his brother, would go to such an extent as to helping a bastard like Orochimaru. How do you know all this? Naruto asked the elderly woman in front of him. We've been watching him for months. Sasuke couldn't have, he couldn't have. Naruto stopped her. He didn't want to believe that Sasuke was still that person after all this time. He thought he had gotten his friend back and now, he's hearing all these things about him, and he just didn't want to hear it anymore. I'm sorry Naruto, but it's the truth. Please, just stop. Naruto hung his head. He couldn't handle hearing any more about his friend. He wanted to believe that Sasuke has finally come back and that he was Sasuke again, but now. I've heard enough bad news for today, just please stop. Tsunade felt sympathy for the young man. After hearing that the love of his life was on the verge of dying with only little hope to survive, and now Sasuke. It was amazing that Naruto could hold it all in inside. Our main focus now is helping Sakura. He said with more confidence now, wanting to just forget about Sasuke and just solve what was at hand first. Tsunade nodded. Naruto immediately stood up with his newfound hope. You should start now. Naruto told her, even though Tsunade knew well that she should. His voice wasn't exactly enthusiastic, but it didn't sound doomed either. Tsunade felt the same way, but it was just that she had never done this procedure before. It was her first time trying to do something like this, although she had cured a lot of L in her lifetime, but never like this before. She had to go in and manually. Her first priority was to go to the heart, where most of it will take place. Just by injecting a cure would be useless because the L had adapted enough to sense a foreign fluid and attack it before it could do anything. But by injecting it to her heart veins first, it had a better chance of getting far considering that the L hadn't reached that far. Then she would inject it into all the other major organs, and hopefully, it will kill the L so that it could no longer spread. But, there is always the chance that she could mess up, accidentally inject it the wrong way or too much that her body would detect it as something lethal and kill off the cure before it could work. Naruto, the L has mutated enough to function on its own, Tsunade decided to tell him after just remembering that. And now that she knew what Naruto knew, this information might be important for him to know. If you say that you have activated it, then by now, it wouldn't matter if you were 2 inches from her or 2 miles. It has started to act on its own and it will not stop until it has completed its job. Naruto understood what she meant. Now, because the L had evolved so much, he could no longer activate it because it had already started. So, he could be near Sakura and he wouldn't be making it worse. Okay, Tsunade. That's all he said. Tsunade gave him a nod. It was time. All that was left now was for her to kill this thing and Sakura would be okay. All they needed to do now was just for her to carry out this operation and she would be alright. The two stepped out of the room and walked towards her room. Hey, Tsunade, could I just have a moment to just... Tsunade knew what he was trying to say. He just wanted a minute with her to just be with her. Go ahead. Naruto walked slowly down the hall, his heart was still erratically beating out of his chest. He was scared to go and see her, but he had to see her before. He didn't know if it would work, but he trusted Tsunade. He trusted her with his life and so he knew that nothing could go wrong, but he still had to see her. He had finally reached her room. Slowly he opened the door and walked in. It was cold in there and the silence was deafening. Sakura, Naruto turned his head to where her bed would be, but she wasn't there. His heart skipped a beat. It was terrifying. How could she not be there? She was too heavily sedated to be able to get up. Where was she? Sakura-chan. Naruto frantically searched around the room, under the bed, anything. Sakura-chan. He yelled out her name in hopes that she may just answer. Tsunade came running in the room. What happened? She then noticed that Sakura was missing. What happened? She repeated herself. Naruto was starting to get completely terrified, but more than anything, he had a feeling he knew who took her. The room, it reeked of his smell. Naruto was trying to control the demon trying to get out of him. Just then, an Anbu appears in the room. Hokage-sama, we have a problem. Uchiha Sasuke has escaped. The Anbu told her. Naruto's eyes shot red in an instant and the room was engulfed in red chakra. SASUKE. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.